Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another edition of MLFA Promises, Stories of Success. Noor Salman grew up in Southern California with her three sisters. Her parents immigrated to the U.S. from the West Bank and Palestine, and in school, Noor struggled with learning disabilities and was enrolled in special education classes, but was able to graduate high school. She attended college where she obtained an associate degree in medical administration. And around the same time, at about 19 years old, she was in an arranged marriage to a man from her father's hometown. But unfortunately, that marriage ended in a divorce in 2009. Now, in 2011, Noor Salman met a young man named Omar Mateen on an online dating site. The two fell in love and were married soon after. And not long after marriage, Noor was pregnant, and they moved to Fort Pierce, Florida, to be closer to Mateen's parents. And they had one child together, a boy, who was born around the same time that Omar began to be abusive to Noor. There are multiple police records showing that he physically abused her. Noor Salman it showed to be a passive prisoner in her own home. Mateen made sure that she had no means to escape him. He kept her from working, told her that he would get full custody of their son if she left. He gave her only $20 a week to spend. She was physically abused. Omar lied to her. He was carrying on multiple affairs with women behind her back. He gave her no access to the bank account, the checking account. He treated her like property. And records show that he beat and raped her while she was pregnant and threatened to kill her. Now, this is a true monster, a lunatic, and a tyrant that she had for a husband. And the story begins on June 12, 2016. Noor's husband, Omar Mateen, did the unthinkable. He decided to go to downtown Orlando, Florida, and commit the largest mass shooting in U.S. history, killing 49 people in cold blood at the Pulse nightclub. Alhamdulillah, Omar Mateen himself died during the attack. Muslims, non-Muslims, all ethnicities, every man and woman in America were shocked, outraged, traumatized, including his wife, Noor Salman. But the government, the US government, immediately did something that they've never done before after a mass shooting. They called this mass shooting an act of terrorism, a term they've never used before, and they did not use it even for the Las Vegas mass shooting, in which more people died and more people were injured. But because Omar Mateen was a Muslim by name, the government wanted to broaden the use of the terrorism statutes to include guilt by association and collective punishment. Then they did something that they did something else they've never done before. They decided to prosecute the spouse of a mass shooter. That's right. 7 months after the shooting on January the 12th, 2017, the United States government indicted Noor Salman in connection with the mass shooting and charged her with obstruction and giving support to a terrorist organization. She was taken into custody by the FBI agents outside her home in San Francisco, where she was living with her 4-year-old son. Meanwhile, the Muslim community was shocked by the shooting and immediately distanced themselves from Noor. So after her arrest, Noor was put in solitary confinement for 1.5 years pending trial and separated from her 4-year-old son. One person, one Muslim civil rights activist, a sister named Linda Sarsour from New York, researched the case. She believed that Noor was innocent. So she started calling all the Muslim attorneys that she knew, and she asked them, can you please defend Noor? I think she's innocent. I don't think she knew anything about this. And all of the lawyers cited, all of them refused. And they all citing that no one ever beats the government on terrorism charges, and that it would be a waste of community resources to fight the case. They felt that Noor should take a plea bargain to avoid life in prison. So Linda called other civil rights organizations who all told her pretty much the same thing. Then Linda decided to reach out to the Muslim Legal Fund of America, whom she had never worked with before. And after the Muslim Legal Fund reviewed the facts and interviewed Noor Salman, we decided to defend her because we too believed she had no advanced knowledge of what her husband was planning and should not be charged. We learned of Noor's story of abuse at the hands of her husband, and we believe the government was misguided and wrong to prosecute her, as it dishonors the memories of the victims to punish an innocent person. We sent our top 2 attorneys to defend Noor, the director of our law center, Charles Swift, and our national security expert, Linda Marino. And the battle began. This was a very high-profile case in the national spotlight, making repeated headlines in all the papers along the way. But through hard work, through investigation, and through expert testimony, during the trial, MLFA proved that the government withheld exculpatory information, evidence called Brady material, from the judge and from the defense attorneys that actually proved Noor's innocence. Let me repeat that. MLFA proved in court the government knew Noor was innocent, and they prosecuted her anyway. MLFA uncovered in court that Omar's father was an FBI informant and had been working for the FBI for years. MLFA also proved that Omar was under surveillance by the government for previous matters, and Omar Mateen had been in and out of law enforcement interviews, that Omar was posting on social media websites that he was joining Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, Al-Shabaab. He was buying assault rifles like candy. None of the law enforcement agencies did anything to stop him. However, once it was over, they did prosecute one person that they knew was innocent, Noor Salman. Alhamdulillah. On Friday, March 30th, 2018, all 12 jurors unanimously found Noor Salman not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty on all charges. Noor walked out of that courtroom a free woman. Noor could go home to her son, resume her life, and try to pick up the pieces and start over. Before leaving the courtroom, in fact, the judge called MLFA's attorneys to his chamber and talked to Linda Marino and Charles Swift. And he said to them, he said that the level of defense that Noor received during the trial was leading him, the district judge, to recommend MLFA's Law Center, the Constitutional Law Center for Muslims in America, to become a federal public defender's resource so that all judges can appoint similar clients to this level of representation. Wow. This is an incredible compliment and a credit to the level of expertise we have at the Law Center. Since 9/11, no one has ever been completely acquitted, found not guilty of terrorism charges until MLFA's defense of Noor Salman. The acquittal of Noor may be the turning point in the war on terror, because it's not being considered a failure of the criminal justice system that she was acquitted on all charges, but that the results have been accepted with equanimity by a wide spectrum of pundits, politicians, and legal authorities, all concluding that the government was overzealous, reckless, and/or unjustified in its efforts to prosecute Noor. We proved the government withheld evidence favorable to Noor's case. Now think about this. If the government is not giving defense attorneys and judges all their evidence, like in this case, when the nation's eyes are upon them, what do you think they're doing with the run-of-the-mill cases when they think no one is watching? A'udhu billah. Before I close this video, on behalf of everyone at MLFA, our board, our staff, our attorneys, I want to say we're very sorry for the families, members, and friends of the victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting and the survivors of the horrendous attack. We condemn all acts of terrorism and violence against innocent people. Our hearts and prayers will always be with the victims of unwarranted violence, regardless of our gratitude for the verdict in Noor's case. Again, we want to say MLFA is on the front lines of justice, protecting Muslim rights and liberties when and where it matters most. Promises made, promises kept. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum.